the biggest ongoing wounds that I can't seem to heal is this feeling that people just hate me, right? It's probably been the hardest 8 years of my life.
You talk to your sponsor. Very simple. You stay out of it.
I know.
Yeah.
I am out of
Shouldn't even
it.
brought it up.
You brought this up to me. I didn't bring this up to you.
Today?
No, when we were on a couple weeks ago, you said, I think that I have a problem with...
I know, but saying it on the thing is, you know.
Yeah, we could take all of this out.
We don't have to.
Did you get a new maid, by the way? Or is it still Khalyla's mom?
Khalyla's mom.
It's still your maid? That's beautiful.
No, it's a control thing, I think.
Oh.
I mean, the other day I go, hey, I want to come over to your new house and see the dogs. She goes, not today. I go, why? You have a guy over? She's like, yeah.
On May 5th, 2022, Khalyla Kuhn dropped one of the biggest nukes in the comedy world during a live broadcast of the H3 podcast. Now, back then, it was very clear to everybody that it was her idea to come after Brendan Schaub publicly in order to try and gain control of the narrative and protect herself with zero regards for Bobby Lee's reputation. However, the whole thing completely backfired and people actually started to notice that she would completely lie, manipulate Bobby, and a clear inability to take responsibility or accountability for her actions. It's already been 10 months since the entire drama happened, and well, nothing has changed.
And it's hard to be online. It's incredibly hard to be online. I don't even have the words. I think one of the biggest ongoing wounds that I can't seem to heal is this feeling that people just hate me, right? And it's like,
do you ever think that maybe it would be a good idea to lean into the Reddit stuff and start selling truck merch?
No.
Okay. That's all. That was my
Let's
question.
land the plane.
Again, Khalyla, I think if I got
you put out content about yourself and you say things like, I accept that my life is up for consumption. I've been podcasting for 10 years and this is what makes me money. This is the livelihood I chose. All of the things that they're saying to you and you having to accept that. It's probably been the hardest 8 years of my life.
The original video of the therapy session between Khalyla and the professional had more dislikes than likes, and for a good reason. It wasn't the best. Now, I don't fully blame the health professional because I don't know her, I don't know much about her, and I don't think that she is up to date with the entire Khalyla madness. Because if she did, she could have called her out for being a complete hypocrite when it comes to receiving hate online. Because back then when the entire Brendan Schaub drama happened and he was on the podcast, on the Tiger Belly podcast, she actually told him that he should lean into the hate, into the subreddit hate, and that he would potentially have a better time doing that because her and Bobby Lee actually got a similar amount of hate as Brendan Schaub, which is clearly not true.
We all know, that we get harassed, you know what I mean, and things said about us on the internet. But
mine's
with her,
different, Bubba.
Huh?
Mine's different.
I know it is, but I'm just saying.
I would say mine is on par with yours.
Mm-mm.
Do you ever think that maybe it would be a good idea to lean into the Reddit stuff and start selling truck merch?
No.
Okay. That's all. That was my
Let's
question.
land the plane.
Again, Khalyla, I think if I got the
And I actually made a petition to not be mean on the internet anymore.
That says petition to no be mean.
And
To no be mean. You spelled not wrong.
I think we should no be mean on the internet. I have stickers. There's different colors you can use. No more mean on the internet, especially to these good guys because...
But now, 10 months later, she actually says that she cries and doesn't understand why she is so hated online. Even though her little girly talk was what sparked a huge fallout between two longtime friends and professional comedians. So because of that, I thought it was a bit weird that the therapist was not asking any hard questions whatsoever. So I did a little bit of research, and from what I found, there seems to be a lot of people that disagree with her and have actually called her out and even called her out for not being able to take any criticism. Again, I don't know anything about that professional, but during the conversation with Khalyla, she did say something that I thought was a bit odd for a therapist or a health professional.
Those people don't really know you. That's what I try to tell myself when people try to say that I'm stupid or I'm ignorant or I'm whatever they want to say. That they've never met me. And then the feisty part of me is like, say it to my face, bitch. Because I know nobody would. You would never talk to someone like that in public, and you would never say something like that. Think about what it would take for you to get online and to spout hate about someone.
Khalyla also mentioned that the reason why she receives a lot of hate is because she puts her life out there, her personal life out there online, and that's her job. However, that's not the strongest argument in my opinion, because there are other entertainers, podcasters like Theo Von, who are very vulnerable. They share a lot of personal stuff on the podcast and still has some of the most loving fan base. To this day, I still have not heard one single negative thing about Theo Von. I might be wrong, but I think that's true. So when Khalyla says something like that, it completely ignores the fact that there is a lot of video evidence that damages her reputation, and she continues to do so to this date. This might sound silly, but the most recent example is of her saying that she wasn't going to date anybody for a long time and she was going to be single and whatever after the breakup. However, it's only been a few months, maybe 1 or 2 months, that her and Bobby are no longer living together. She has her own place, and she has already moved on.
Did you get a new maid, by the way? Or is it still Khalyla's mom?
Khalyla's mom.
It's still your maid? That's beautiful. Because you're connected to her. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
No, it's a control thing, I think.
Oh.
From with who?
From you want to have some sort of control still.
I need to know things.
Yeah.
You want to be able to, you know what I mean, ask questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the other day I go to Khalyla, I go, hey, I want to come over to your new house and see the dogs. She goes, not today. I go, why? You have a guy over? She's like, yeah.
Oh, she just said yes.
And I go, okay.
Does that hurt you?
What guy? That's all I want to know.
So it's recently been brought to my attention that by people that I've dated, that one of the biggest barriers to dating me is that I always put you first. You are always a priority. I feel like I've been groomed. I feel like I've been like hard, like programmed to just like be at your beck and call, like always.
Guy that we've had on that we're associated with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Liked her on Raya.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Went for her, right?
It's not good.
And now this guy has been texting me, hey, let's hang out.
But you know that he went in on Raya. You know he went for a Raya.
Yeah,
He doesn't know that you know.
Because he never texts me, and it's been like 2 or 3 texts in a week, right? So I think he thinks he has there's a feeling, right? So let's hang out, let's pod, let's, you know what I mean?
Now, here's the thing. If she is moving on, good for her, and who cares, honestly. And that's Bobby's fault, if anything, for not moving on already. But the fact that she is actually going on the podcast and trying to paint the narrative that she is unable to move on because Bobby actually groomed her into always putting him first before everybody else, including her new dates, is completely insane. It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's very clear that the reason why they broke up it's because she wasn't putting Bobby Lee first, and because of that, she caused him to lose 2 longtime friends and then get into one of the biggest dramas in his life. So I don't think that makes any sense at all. Bobby Lee couldn't even engage with that and just said some random generic half funny statements. But it wasn't until the most recent episode with Dr. Drew that Khalyla was actually called out in real time for trying to manipulate Bobby Lee.
I have a question in regards to like Bobby's recovery, and we can obviously take this out if this is like too personal.
To me?
But, yeah, about you. But
Okay.
like just as like from like where I stand and what I'm observing, like what happens if like, okay, you are free of the usual, you know, the drugs, but then I'm kind of seeing it like morph into maybe like
Sex. It's usually where it goes, sex and gambling. So you talk to your sponsor. Very simple. You stay out of it.
I know.
Stay out.
Yeah.
I am
But-
out of
Shouldn't even
it.
brought it up.
Wait.
I mean, stay out of
But
it.
I normally that's what I have to do. I have to get everybody like, hey, just
Exactly.
stay away,
That's true.
stand back.
Yeah.
Make sure you talk
Stand
to
back,
your
stand
sponsor.
by. That's what
Have
Donald Trump
I
said.
have I generally stood back though?
Be a proud boy, okay? Stand
think
back and
you're
stand,
right.
stand by.
But I'm not saying don't bring it up. I'm saying like set a boundary, stand back.
I have stepped.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
completely
But-
like
Exactly.
leave him to his own.
but-
January 6th will happen, and then you
But
go.
it's
you do your
so
thing.
subtle how this shit can take you out with gambling and sex and all this stuff. It really can get you going. So you must talk to your
Must
sponsor
what?
about that stuff. Talk to your
I
sponsor.
have no idea what you're saying. What is going on here?
Oh boy.
Well, may I defend myself?
You don't have to.
I want to.
Go ahead.
I know I don't have to, but
For
it's,
me.
you know, mindful.
I'd like to say something first.
How?
You brought this up
to me. I didn't bring this up to you.
Today?
No, when we were on a couple weeks ago, you said, I think that I have a problem with...
I know, but saying it on the thing is, you know...
Yeah, we could take all of this out.
We don't have to.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And watching Khalyla talk to Dr. Drew as if she was a doctor herself and then getting horribly shot down is hilarious because she tried to frame Bobby Lee as an addict by using something that he told her in private and then putting it out on the podcast. And she knew that it was completely wrong because she kept saying that they could cut that out knowing that it was something very private. It's like saying, hey, between us, however, there are a lot of cameras pointing at you and a whole production team that is going to hear what you're about to say. So watching her react and trying to justify the reason why she brought it up is hilarious. Again, Dr. Drew has the authority, I guess you could say, to tell her to stay out of it. And if anything, she should have not been involved in any of Bobby Lee's relapses because, I mean, that could be a whole video in itself, but I don't think she was the best influence or the best help when it came to Bobby Lee's relationship with addiction. Again, that's a whole nother video, but that also doesn't, completely make Bobby Lee innocent. Although Bobby Lee isn't the bad guy here, he has been enabling Khalyla, trying to cover up for her and never really taking accountability or never really pushing her to take accountability for anything that they have done in the past year.
Asking what happened? What was your part of it?
There is no part.
You didn't, they just threatened you. Let's beat up Bobby.
Is that my relationship with those two guys are pretty much done.
Really?
Yes.
I thought you were friends with him.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
That stinks. Okay. So it was serious.
Very serious.
Wow.
And very ugly. And it, it had to do with my breakup with Khalyla.
Oh, shit.
They did it.
They broke you up.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it was mostly my fault. And I'll tell you why. A couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, before the pandemic, I could see myself out of the relationship in terms of they were a big part of it.
Wow.
And
so it was much like the Ari, you broke Ari up with the girl. Was it like that?
Once again, for Bobby Lee to blame Bryan Callen and Brendan Schaub 10 months after everything had happened, I think it's a weak move because Brendan Schaub has already apologized. Bryan Callen has already come out and apologized and said that it was a mistake, yada, yada. But Khalyla and Bobby Lee still have not come out and taken any sort of responsibility for anything that happened. The fact that they were both miserable while they were together, Bobby Lee was ignoring Khalyla. Khalyla was seeing somebody else in Hawaii, being in a one-way open relationship, if that makes sense. So to ignore all of that and say that it was Bryan Callen and Brendan Schaub's fault is completely irresponsible. If anything, you could argue that Brendan Schaub saved Bobby Lee's life by pushing them to expose their current relationship to everybody. And then Bobby Lee got immediate feedback that he wasn't wrong and that he was completely being manipulated. So then he was able to break things off in a very peaceful way. Even after the entire thing had blown up, it was a mess, reputations were destroyed, Bobby Lee still went on a breakup tour in which he essentially covered up for Khalyla, saying that it wasn't her fault, that it was his fault, and that she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Again, putting Khalyla in this position where she can make no mistake and she could never be at fault.
And the people that are saying shit about me in this, fuck yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, because you don't know. This is my personal life. And this is our life. And it's like, they're being very mean toward Khalyla. And I've had enough of it, it's unfounded, not true. She's a good girl and I love her very much. And I wish people would stop, I really do. Honestly, it was mostly my fault. And I'll tell you why. A couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, before the pandemic, I could see myself out of the relationship in terms of giving her what she needs. Women, they need cuddles, they need attention, they need intimacy, they need all and I was not giving her anything. I was just playing video games and watching, you know what I mean? And she would say, every day, she would cry and be like, what about me? What's going on? And I'd just be like, I'm just not, I don't know, I'm going through something. I would make some sort of excuse, and I have to say that, a lot of it was my fault, And, I was in therapy talking about it. We did couples therapy and stuff. And
But at the end of the day, it's understandable that Bobby Lee wanted to protect Khalyla's reputation. She had just launched Trash Tuesday, her own podcast, and was wanting to be taken serious as a producer or creator of podcasts or whatever. However, I've said this before and a lot of people disagree with me, but I don't think that she was that important to the success and growth of the Tiger Belly podcast. And obviously it's impossible to know, but at the very least, I think I have some evidence that supports my case. For example, Khalyla just launched the Trash Tuesday podcast not too long ago. It's only been 2 years. She launched it with 2 other established female comedians. They did it with a huge bump from Tiger Belly and continued to get advertisements on Tiger Belly. Had a lot of very successful comedian guests. Had Bobby Lee on, who is their most viewed episode. I mean, it essentially had all the help to become one of the top female comedian podcasts out there. However, the numbers now are at the lowest that they've ever been. I don't know how they're still profitable with the monthly views that they're getting. So then my argument is, why wasn't she able to make Trash Tuesday as successful as Tiger Belly, or at the very least keep it afloat for longer than, the year or 2 years that it's been on YouTube? Regardless, nothing really has changed from what I've seen on the podcast. There's a possibility that she is becoming the next Brendan Schaub, but who knows? But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel to support. It helps out a ton. Dislike if you didn't like the video, but that is all we have for today. See ya.